Well, I found that I was in a fix last night. I was at a meeting that was discussing a passage of history, and the person delivering, well, we weren't discussing really, we were just listening to his talk. And he was giving, you could say, his opinion of history. And it was enlightening, don't get me wrong. And, well, the audience is dominantly secular. I can appreciate the secular as a philosophical view, and that it's important to them. I've been secular myself. But can I in some sense say not depraved? Depraved just, well, it came to mean deprived of the presence of God. It degenerated into meaning lustful and into debaucherous type of evil. The word profane came into my mind, and I had to check it because it's not a word I ever use. I don't think I've ever used it before. Now, and it meant originally before the temple. In other words, outside. Unholy, if you like. And there's a humour that treats the holy with contempt. And I'm struck, what is evil about that, or what's wrong with that? What's bad? And by bad I should mean, what is harmful to us in doing that? Or is it harmful? Is it harmful to treat with contempt things that actually are important? On the religious scene, that's God. But even on the secular scene, things to do with sex and reproduction, they are important. They are about our coming into being. Life's conception. And what we are experiencing at the minute in living is all a consequence of conception. We don't treat with contempt sexual desire or another aspect of living, defecation. If the body doesn't cleanse itself, ill health and desperation follow, which means unhappiness. So I think what is, if you like, bad about profanity or contempt, treating lightly things that are very serious, very important to us, is that we put ourselves at risk of not giving respect to something that is major to our health and our well-being, our happiness and our peace of mind. close to this in my mind, or I'm reminded of anyway, for whatever reason, sarcasm. There's a certain pleasure in being ably sarcastic. There lurks an arrogance with it that says, for instance, we're men of the world, and I think that goes possibly with much profanity too. I'm not deceived by all this fake religious nonsense, or turning a blind eye to sexual matters and I don't know what else. A worldliness, a confidence that one can be profane, not just against religious things, but against fundamental things to life and to living in the secular world that in fact are very important. A dismissive, arrogant view, if we're not careful, and we're not careful, profanity in this both narrow and its wider sense that I'm suggesting here is an expression of desired freedom from constraints that we're holding in contempt. We're treating as trivial, we're treating lightly and dismissively. And that puts us at risk, I think I'm maintaining. And I think it's this putting us at risk of not giving due, serious and earnest and genuine consideration to such regions of our life that are major, in fact, in bringing our health and well-being and happiness, fulfillment, contentment, peace, beauty and loveliness, goodness, earnestness, ultimately kindness and consideration, sensitivity, thoughtfulness, compassion. Do you see? I think profanity can be understood as harmful in this way, and is therefore to be avoided, whether it's swearing, dirty jokes, preoccupation with holding things that are held with respect, with contempt, an expression of a desired freedom, but the exercise of which I think is damaging. Sarcasm is an insincerity, isn't it? It's not something you would list as the likely qualities of God, should God exist. I mean, it would be hard to, wouldn't it? We have a culture that says certain things are taboo. I like to coming to New Zealand. It's interesting for me in that you come into a culture that's running parallel with another culture, what we call an indigenous culture, Maori culture here. And it has rules that if you flout, it's offensive to that culture. Just as if you were disrespectful about, say, the monarch, the queen, or the king in Victorian culture, it would be taken as disrespectful and, in some sense, harmful, and not the sort of thing we do, and should be ostracized by what is held to be a good patriotic company. Obviously, it's against patriotism, isn't it, in some sense, if your nation elevates monarchy. If, of course, you feel monarchy is wrong, then to treat it with disrespect and sarcasm and so on is an appropriate way of trying to destroy that sort of wrongness about your society. And of course many people in society may be seeing it as a rightness. Coming back to the Amari thing, I mean, a simple thing that we're told very early on when you come to New Zealand is don't sit on a table. It's absolutely taboo to Maori culture. And it's possibly, if you think about it, because, English people may have always been clothed for the last 2,000 years or something, but perhaps the Maori weren't, and to sit on a table, in fact, would be a health hazard, wouldn't it? If one's own body was not too clean. Now, I'm not absolutely certain this is the foundation sort of behind the principle, but probably, possibly. And one can see the validity of it too, of course. It's a hygiene principle. And a hygiene principle is something that is about something that protects your health. And protecting your health is everything to life and happiness and the functioning of daily life. Because if we're ill and in pain, life can be so unhappy. If we profane the temple, well, we're really saying, well, it depends what the temple represents, some religious belief, and the religious beliefs are there because those that hold them at least ostensibly, because these beliefs are important from the point of view of our well-being and happiness. And to treat such with contempt is to not observe what our society might think are necessary rules to that order and happiness, peace and well-being, and all that we value. Of course, we can be wrong. The particular view that we're profaning, whether it's secular, in my sense, extended to the secular, or whether it's purely religious, it could be misunderstood and held wrongly, and it's not so important. And in fact, the adherence to the principle of that belief could be found to be extremely troublesome in living and our happiness, and a cause of much contention. And perhaps patriotism is a bit like that. It can degenerate into a racism very easily, which dismisses whole cultures and nations as inferior and so on. And we have an unhappy world, not the harmony that really would bless us. So I think I'm arguing there's a deep-rooted antipathy is the word, rejection of profanity, unless one is so freely orientated, so casual, and one's pleasure is in a sheer relief from what one has come to see as a tyranny of such, say, religious or cultural belief, that we see as actually harming our welfare, then we might turn to sarcasm, what the religious might see as disrespect, profanity, as a way of undermining rules and precepts and norms of behavior that are either without value or actually harmful. And we might be strongly motivated to act in a, quotes, profane way. And this might include swearing to show that we're not part of this hypocrisy, especially, we might see it as. We're free. We tell what used to be called dirty jokes because it shows that we're people of the world and we're realists and we know the corruption going on and it's really not as harmful as was made out at all. And the culture and the religion that we're looking at has made a nonsense of desperately important as something that was very trivial and very normal and acceptable in our view, which is contrary to something that we're fighting against and trying to reject. And that may be in itself very important to us. And we might hold on to that freedom. Almost expressed in my mum's regularly stated view, rules are there to be broken. And she saw, of course, successful people as ones that had broken the rules in ways that will at least help the individual that broke the rules. Of course, the reality could be different to this. It could be that when you do break the rules for whatever, what we would then see as misguided reason, a lot of unhappiness and despair might result. But we didn't see that coming, say. Of course, there is a conservative principle that says that don't damage what is. It might be far more important to your well-being than you suppose. Be cautious before you throw religion out the window or disrespect out the window or cultural norms out the window. You may find you're much the poorer for it. But of course, progress might require that you throw out the window rules, regulations, norms of behavior and so on that in fact are damaging and holding back your true welfare, creativity and prosperity. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. Look, I hope you feel that this discourse, although it's rambling, I do appreciate that, is not finished. It's inconclusive. And I broke off here a longer recording, and it's continued in the follow-ups to this number, B and C and D. It took me some time to be finding my way out, so to speak. See what you think. Thank you, Heavenly Dad.